Now, this is a consideration that you should remember about the user management.
Mm-hmm.
When you deactivate the users, right,
Mm-hmm.
it is just a deactivation. You cannot delete the record. Records cannot be deleted related to the user because they are the first class citizens and they are the real entities which is running into the audit, audit cycle. So users will be required for data auditing later. Okay,
Got it.
so you cannot delete the record. First thing,
Mm-hmm.
deleting a user can result in orphan record and the loss of critical business information. Why it is
Mm-hmm.
so? Because this user can be a process user as well. Many of the admins, they do this mistake. They don't create integration users. They create real users and they assign them to as a process user to run a flow or to run any kind of automation job in the background. And when these users, we deactivate these users, that will be a orphaned record definition in the backend because user is not
Mm.
active and you're trying to use that user to run some automation. Deactivating a user prevents access but preserve all historical activity and records. So what is happening is we have the historical activity related to a user, right? For example, this user logs in, this user uses the setup, this user runs the data input. All this is a historical activity. These records are
Got it.
created in separate database tables. So this record remains there, and to maintain the data integrity, we are forced to keep this record in Salesforce even if it is deactivated. We cannot delete it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now with the freeze user, if the user is selected in a custom hierarchy field because you can't immediately deactivate the user, you can freeze it in the meantime. What does this mean? We have a role hierarchy that is used for data sharing, right? That
Mm-hmm.
I will explain to you later. In the
Mm-hmm.
role hierarchy, if this user is added somewhere at some role that you assigned a role while you creating the user, right? So that makes this user a part of a role hierarchy. In that case, you cannot deactivate the user, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Correct.
sharing going on based on that user. But what you can do is you can freeze that user in the meantime. Freezing means Salesforce user cannot do anything inside Salesforce. They cannot log in. They cannot access anything. So your org is safe. In the meanwhile, you can work with data and get it settled.
Okay.
Now, freezing user doesn't make their user licenses available. As we have seen, if you freeze the user, it will not
Mm-hmm.
change the number of licenses available to you, right?
Okay. It will not free up the licenses, but
Yeah, it
only
will
deactivation does. Okay.
exactly. To make the user licenses available, deactivate the account. So it is required to deactivate the account to make the licenses available.
So can frozen user actually log into Salesforce?
No, they can't.
Okay.
The only downside is with frozen users, you cannot release the license. Actually, you cannot assign that license to anyone else.